We're dry for today, but chances for showers and storms are back in the forecast by Thursday. I'll let you know if they'll be hanging around into your weekend forecast.
Here it is.
Ahead in your next weather on
the news about the coronavirus. That's right. The news about the coronavirus.
It's a reopening. Take two. And just in time. Because right now, people need coffee that tastes like coffee. And hair that doesn't look like that. And someone who knows where those numbers actually go. They need you, turning your community and the country around. One appointment, one customer, one thank you at a time. And to help you with that reopening, we're giving 1 free month of service when you switch to Spectrum Business. We're here for you, because you're here for all of us.
Giving me an opportunity to see every corner of the city.
Here it is. The news about the coronavirus. That's right. The news about the coronavirus.
We want to be a different kind of news channel, putting storytelling and community first. Well, it's really humbling to be invited to our neighbors' homes and help them plan their day. Welcome to Your Morning News. I'm Sophia Constantine. Take a look at your weather on the one. We've got a large band of precipitation.
Your Morning News, weekday mornings on Spectrum News 1. Sunday mornings, take an in-depth look at your community. In Focus with Mike Kallmeyer, a half-hour show dedicated to the important issues, driven to bring decision makers together, and committed to elevating discussion and debate. Your community, your state, your show. In Focus with Mike Kallmeyer, Sunday mornings at 10:30 on Spectrum News 1, exclusively on Spectrum.
Maybe I'll run for president, maybe I won't, but I will tell you that I'm not going to go away.
I don't think Michigan can become the Michigan of old.
We're probably the first professional sports team in the world that was built by the fans.
We're the biggest ice cream shipper in the nation, setting the standard for a new era in high school.
I get to live my dream. I mean, what more could I ask for?
Conversation, Sunday and Tuesday night at 9 on Spectrum News 1, exclusively on Spectrum.
Hey there, Northeast Ohio. We'll be staying dry through this evening and into tomorrow before we reintroduce some rain and thunderstorm chances back to your Thursday forecast. For this evening, we remain dry. Temperatures relatively comfortable through tonight as well. Starting off in the 80s around 5, 6 o'clock, and then we see those temperatures slowly backing off from there. Just a few puffy clouds in the forecast, a little bit of moisture coming in right along the lake shore, but nothing that's going to trigger rain chances for, again, until Thursday. We're looking to remain largely dry. Overnight temperatures coming down into the 60s and near 90 degrees for your Wednesday forecast. Staying largely rain-free until Thursday, and that's going to be largely late in the day as we see a weak frontal boundary approaching. Don't get caught up on temperatures because those are not going to change very much. What it's going to do is serve as a little bit of a focal point for some of those late-day showers and thunderstorms, and we're going to see a little bit of an unsettled pattern right on through the weekend. So rain chances are actually going to help dip temperatures a little bit as we move into the end of the week. But with this frontal boundary on Thursday, there's a possibility it could kickstart a couple of stronger thunderstorms. So the possibility does exist for an isolated severe thunderstorm warning or two across Northeast Ohio. We are under a marginal risk already for the chance for severe weather on Thursday. As far as Lake Erie goes, water temperatures in the 70s. We'll see light winds today out of the south-southeast, 5 to 10 knots, 1 to 2 foot waves. So overall, a pretty quiet setup on the water. Same goes into tomorrow. It's Thursday, will look to be a little bit more unsettled as we kickstart more in the way of shower and potentially thunderstorm activity through the early evening. Then Friday afternoon, we're going to pick up with those chances for showers and storms once again. Very similar pattern as we head into the weekend. And for the weekend, notice that change in our temperatures. We're going from the 80s back down into the low to even mid-90s. Looking for a high of 93 coming up on Sunday, keeping those 90s in the mix as we head into early next week. Now let's get a check of your Storm Track Doppler radar. Butler County
could be the next to qualify as a level 4, the most severe level in the state's new health advisory system for coronavirus. Butler County currently sits at level 3. Several local business owners and residents say they're taking every precaution they can to prevent their county from going from red to purple. The owner of High Street Cafe in downtown Hamilton tells us it's been a struggle to keep their once bustling business booming in these difficult economic times. The owner says they are continuing to push through while also helping their customers stay safe by offering things like free masks and hand sanitizer. For now, they're only offering carry-out and catering, which still keeps plenty of customers rolling in. However, the owner says their day-to-day business is still nothing like it was before the pandemic.
I used to see the 100 people inside this restaurant upstairs and downstairs. Unfortunately now with the social distancing, the spacing, trying to keep everybody at a minimum distance at 6 feet, we had to eliminate all of our dining.
If Butler County does indeed reach level 4, the governor's office says rules in Butler County would change to encourage residents to stay home, except for essential activities. Columbus is replacing several hundred parking meters in the popular Short North area with new kiosks. The old parking meters have been in place for several years and require more maintenance than new kiosks. Those kiosks are already in place along Nationwide Boulevard in Columbus's Arena District. Work begins this week to replace the individual parking meters with the new kiosks around Goodale Park. Columbus's Parking Enforcement Office says one kiosk can serve several dozen spaces. As many as 400 more meters are scheduled to be replaced, with the kiosks in 3 other parts of downtown by the end of the summer. Still ahead, we take a closer look at the wealth disparities our state is facing. But first, we continue to hear from activists, leaders, and community members about what's brought them to action and how we need to continue addressing racial discrimination in order to create a better world for everyone. Here's today's Voices for Change.
I am the Executive Director of the Northeast Ohio Black Health Coalition. This is the first coalition in the state of Ohio to focus on African American disparities in education, employment, housing, and health by working to educate, advocate for, and empower the community. COVID shed a light on all the inequities that African Americans have been literally dreaming about with deaf ears for a long, long time. So when we have children who are at home and they don't have access to the internet, or they don't have a tablet or a computer, but those things are required in order for them to be educationally sound, then we've missed the mark. And so for us, it's important for us to know that education goes beyond brick and mortar. We need to make sure that we're able to take it into the home. So Babies and Brunch, myself and 2 other parents got together as part of the Northeast Ohio Black Health Coalition and decided that we would take food to children who were disabled or disabled caregivers, and that the food isn't made for them to get to the food, that the food gets to them. We have almost 39,000 students in our municipal school district, and we have fed less than 10% during the era of COVID, and that is egregious. When you see the cars that line up here on the street to come in and get the food, that's a great thing about us as Americans, that we're willing to help out people who are in need. There are black folks, there are white folks taking food to folks who need it. You know, they didn't say, well, I only want to take the white family. They're saying, you know what, this is a need and I'm willing to help you meet it.
News 1, our goal is refreshingly simple: to bring you an accurate, reliable, and local forecast every 10 minutes.
Weather on the One, every 10 minutes, exclusively on Spectrum.
Whether we're miles away or 6 feet apart, we're closer than we've ever been. At Cleveland Clinic, we care for everyone, and safety is our top priority. From extra measures at all locations to virtual visits, we're here for you every day. For every procedure and treatment, for every visit with peace of mind, for every care in the world. Cleveland Clinic. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit clevelandclinic.org/access.
Every morning, the people of Ohio have the opportunity to wake up and start fresh.
We want to be a different kind of news channel, putting storytelling and community first.
Your morning news, weekday mornings on Spectrum News 1.
Wait for your forecast with your Weather on the One.
Weather on the One, every 10 minutes, exclusively on Spectrum. Sunday mornings, take an in-depth look at your community. In Focus with Mike Kallmeyer, a half-hour show dedicated to the important issues, driven to bring decision makers together and committed to elevating discussion and debate. Your community, your state, your show. In Focus with Mike Kallmeyer, Sunday morning at 10:30 on Spectrum News 1, exclusively on Spectrum.
Maybe I'll run for president, maybe I won't, but I will tell you that I'm not going to go away.
I don't think Michigan can become the Michigan of old.
We're probably the first professional sports team in the world that was built by the fans.
We're the biggest ice cream shipper in the nation, setting the standard for American ice cream.
I get to live my dream. I mean, what more could I ask for?
Conversation, Sunday and Tuesday night at 9 on Spectrum News 1, exclusively on Spectrum.
They didn't want African Americans to be living next door to them.
Examining the history of the white flight phenomenon. Welcome back to Spectrum News 1. I'm Mary Lou Melendez. We'll have that full story for you in just a few minutes, but first, let's go ahead and get a quick check of your Weather on the One's forecast.
A few puppy cumulus clouds across the Buckeye State this afternoon, but they're not going to be rain producers. In fact, we're going to be staying dry largely for Ohio until we get into Thursday afternoon, and that's when we're rather significantly going to be bumping up not just our rain, but our potential for thunderstorm chances. So through today, a little bit of cumulus activity there, not much in the way of cloud cover though through this evening, and we will see those temperatures falling through the 70s overnight, and ultimately we'll wind up with around an overnight low back in the 60s once again. Dropping to 64 Columbus, 65 tonight Cincinnati. Notice these temperatures just a little bit warmer than what we were waking up to this morning. So we're starting to see those humidity levels ever so slowly beginning to creep up, and you'll start to feel more of that by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon. Now, our daytime highs for much of Ohio are going to flirt with 90 degrees on Wednesday. Many areas will hit that mark, but we're going to start to feel just a little bit warmer than that. And once we get into Thursday, that's when we see the real surge in humidity translating into thunderstorm chances. More coming up in your next Weather on the One.
Cleveland is one of the most segregated cities in the country. That's according to several studies. Our Ryan Schmelz joined a Cleveland City councilman who witnessed how his neighborhood became a case study in the signs of change he sees happening right now.
Councilman Joe Jones walks along the street, showing improvements made to the Lee Harbor neighborhood outside of Cleveland.
We're starting to see some of that change. This road right here that has been brought in here is a great example of that. The road before that, it hadn't been done in 20 years.
Jones grew up in the Cleveland neighborhood, known as the suburb in the city. He says he was just a kid when he noticed that white families were starting to move out of the Lee Harbor neighborhood.
At the time, I just knew that white people did not want to commingle with the African American population. They didn't want their children to go to the same schools. They didn't want African Americans to be living next door to them, and they abhorred that thought, and they moved.
His parents were among the first African Americans on the street where their house was located. He adds that his family experienced some terrifying moments, including one his father shared with him.
I'll never forget him telling me that when he moved into the house, that, the neighbors burned a cross on the outside that night. And so my mom and my dad hit the floor, and prayed to God and called the police, and the police never came until the cross burned completely out.
As whites began to move out, a phenomenon commonly referred to as white flight, the area's tax base started shrinking, as well as school funding. But Jones is proud to say there's been progress.
The district is home to some new schools like Whitney M. Young, and many believe that educational opportunities are key to closing the opportunity gap.
Now this school right here, which was so really beautiful about it, is that the neighborhood came together to design it, right down to the very colors of the bricks. But I never, when I was growing up, would have imagined that we would have built a John F. Kennedy school right here at this location.
Jones shows off a brand new school in the area, as well as investments in housing and community centers. And the Cleveland Restoration Society is developing a cultural history of Lee Harbor, highlighting the people and places that are part of the neighborhood's heritage. Also, current events that place issues of race and equality out front for examination have lifelong Clevelanders like Jones optimistic in the energy from people who want to see positive change happen now.
In some of the protests, I couldn't tell who's the majority crowd, African Americans or white people. And so for me, it was exciting to see that.
Ryan Schnells, Spectrum News.
U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos is virtually visiting Ohio to talk about education. Officials here in the state say that visit does not include educators in the field from any organizations within the state. And as our Tanisha Johnson explains, that's raising some eyebrows as DeVos is already under fire for calling for schools to reopen fully.
Ohio Education Association President Scott DeMauro and other educators around Ohio aren't holding back on their feelings when it comes to the U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos' stance on reopening of schools without guidance.
Two words come to mind, callous and clueless.
In fact, some stated that they found her latest comments, along with the White House administration's threat of cutting funding, offensive if they didn't fully reopen. Ohio Federation of Teachers President Melissa Cropper was just one of a few who joined the panel discussion hosted by the Ohio Democratic Party.
The rhetoric is dangerous. The rhetoric causes some people to perhaps feel like they have to shortcut on safety measures out of fear they're going to lose money.
Frustrated not just with the comments, but the pressure to reopen as DeVos is scheduled to virtually visit Ohio this week.
And while she's talking about reopening schools and offering no plan, she is also not talking to any educators in the state, although she's making a personal appearance virtually to talk to veterans.
Educators believe the Trump administration and Secretary DeVos don't understand the massive undertaking required to reopen schools, nor do they care about who may be harmed in the process. For school board members like Sam Shem of Worthington City Schools, it hits home a little deeper as his daughter recently died of COVID-19. As a result, Shem says districts don't want to be bullied into making poor decisions.
All of us want to reopen schools, but we do not want to take unnecessary risks.
While all on the Hill appreciate the distribution of CARES Act funding, they're still looking for a collaborative effort from the White House on down to make sure schools restart safely. In the meantime, union leaders say they're actively looking for ways to protect teachers this year as a part of their bargaining negotiations. That includes making sure they get sick days and quarantine days if needed. This all while districts attempt to plan their reopenings according to the COVID alert map Governor DeWine released not too long ago. For now, they plug away with a slight hope that DeVos will turn a corner on her rhetoric. For Spectrum News, I'm Tanisha Johnson.
And educators from both unions say they have not reached out to Betsy DeVos and her team for a response to a virtual visit today. However, they say based on previous attempts, they don't believe she's expressed interest in speaking with them. A big reminder for you, tomorrow is the final day to file your taxes. The new tax filing deadline is here because it was pushed back 3 months, but taxpayers are still scrambling to get theirs in. Several taxpayers are seeing a jump in business if they're open. Some have closed their doors because of coronavirus, but others are doing those extra taxes from home.
All of the tax documents can be exchanged securely using a web portal, the same way you would get a bank statement. So we can exchange documents that way. We can talk on the phone. We communicate by email.
Tomorrow is also the deadline for you to request an extension that would give you until October 15th to file. An Ohio woman is leading the effort to add 8 sacred Indian sites to the World Heritage List. She hopes people across the globe will come visit the Buckeye State and be forever changed by the past. Our Dennis Viviano has the story.
Jennifer Altman serves as the Director of Historic Sites and Museums at Ohio History Connection. She's a trained anthropologist and archaeologist and is on a mission to have Ohio's sacred Indian sites, such as the Octagon, Great Circle, and 6 others, to be designated as World Heritage Sites. In total, there are 24 World Heritage Sites in the U.S., including Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, and Yosemite National Park.
It can be a very long process, and the reason that is that the committee wants to make sure that not only are these places so significant that they really should be added to the list, but they also want to make sure that they're being managed in such a way that they'll be preserved and cared for, really, in perpetuity.
And while it's believed the Hopewell Indians had a large presence in our state, their name was derived by a Chillicothe landowner.
Hopewell was never the name of a tribe. It is a name that archaeologists gave to sites based on actually the Hopewell Mound Group in Chillicothe. It was owned by a white man named Mordecai Hopewell.
Earthworks were used by Native Americans as places of ceremony, social gathering, and honoring the dead. Ohio's history dates back thousands of years, from the Fortified Hill Earthworks Project to the Great Serpent Mound. Native American culture is still celebrated each year in Chillicothe during the Feast of the Flowering Moon. Ohio State Professor of American Studies and citizen of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians, Dr. John Lau, says the 8 locations across Ohio are not only part of our history, but monumental places of engineering, social collaboration, as well as astronomy and geometry.
We don't have a lot of information about them. We don't have a lot of other materials left by them. And so these earthworks, these mounds, these circles, there are best and last chance perhaps to hold on to what they have bequeathed to us.
And while the process to be included as a World Heritage Site must meet certain criteria, the process could take several years. Holtman says she's confident Ohio will be able to share these national treasures with the rest of the world.
One is that Ohioans will better understand and appreciate this history. Another is, this is sort of a global megaphone about this really important history that's here in Ohio. We just want people to know that and appreciate the ancient American Indian culture, and how sophisticated that tradition is in terms of astronomical knowledge.
For Spectrum News, I'm Dennis Viviano.
Hey there, and good afternoon, Northeast Ohio. I'm meteorologist Ashley Beatty. Thanks so much for checking in with us for your updated weather on the West forecast this afternoon. We got plenty of blue sky out there today. A few puffy cumulus clouds. That's going to be about all we're going to see in terms of our satellite radar through the afternoon. And as we get into this evening, temperatures falling off nicely. We'll be looking at readings in the 70s, with ultimately those overnight lows once again dropping back down into the 60s. Notice how we stay rain-free through the remainder of tonight. We're going to see more of the same as we move through your Wednesday forecast as well. So for the next couple of days, if you are looking to spend a little time outside, you won't be dodging showers or thunderstorms, but that is definitely going to be changing by the time we head into Thursday. For this evening, if you're looking to get out for a little jog around the neighborhood, plan on temperatures in the lower 80s, and thankfully not too much of a heat index to worry about, at least not just yet, although we'll be talking a lot more about that by Thursday afternoon. For your overnight temperatures, instead of a lot of 50s, we're largely going to be seeing low to mid 60s for your overnight temperature. 64 in Cleveland, 63 for Akron, dropping to an overnight low of 61 degrees for Medina. They will warm up rapidly through tomorrow, seeing a little bit of an increase in our cloud cover late in the day, and that's as a result of a little bit more moisture starting to creep back in. So even though we're not going to quite hit 90 degrees, although a few of us will manage to do that, we're going to feel like it's 90 degrees tomorrow afternoon, and then the real surge in humidity really takes hold for us by Thursday, when we'll talk about not just heat index values, but also chances for some showers and even some strong or severe thunderstorms. For tomorrow, 89 Cleveland, 89 Medina, getting up to 90 degrees Akron, Canton, Mansfield, and we'll look at upper 80s even right along the lakeshore. 88 coming up tomorrow for Ashtabula. Once we get those temperatures up around 90 degrees, we're not going to have much wiggle room here. We're going to see a little bit of a dip here Thursday, Friday, but still upper 80s. And then we see another nudge upward in those temperatures as we move into the weekend. And that's even with some of those late day chances for showers and thunderstorms. I've got even warmer temperatures temperatures coming up Sunday and even into early next week. So with that surge in humidity, again, there is the possibility of some stronger or even severe thunderstorms. So already all of northeast Ohio under a marginal risk for severe weather, meaning we're not expecting an outbreak of severe storms, but it is likely one or two are going to really gather some strength, and we could be looking primarily at some strong gusty winds in the forecast. More details in your 7-day coming up in less than 10 minutes. Now let's get a check into Stormfront Doppler radar.
Up next on Spectrum News 1, the latest coronavirus numbers from around the globe. How the scope of the pandemic looks across national borders. Stay with us. That's coming up next.
Thank you for caring for your neighbors
Here
and
it is.
communities in a way we never
The news
imagined
about
would
the
be necessary.
coronavirus.
We salute all
That's
Ohioans
right.
for helping
The
their fellow
news
Buckeyes
about the
in need
coronavirus.
during these unprecedented times.
Celebrating Ohioans everywhere, supporting each other. We are one Ohio. News 24/7. Plus, in-depth shows and exclusives focused on your community. Always Ohio, always refreshing, always on. We are Spectrum News 1, exclusively on Spectrum. Sunday mornings, take an in-depth look at your community. In Focus with Mike Kallmeyer, a half-hour show dedicated to the important issues, driven to bring decision makers together and committed to elevating discussion and debate. Your community, your state, your show. In Focus with Mike Kallmeyer, Sunday mornings at 10:30 on Spectrum News 1, exclusively on Spectrum.
Weather in Ohio is changing all the time.
We get winter one day and 60s the next.
At Spectrum News 1, our goal is refreshingly simple.
We bring you an accurate, reliable, and local forecast every 10 minutes.
We have an incredible, experienced team of people.
We don't just know about the weather, we know about Ohio.
You never have to wait for your forecast with your Weather on the One.
Weather on the One, every 10 minutes, exclusively on Spectrum.
So this is Eva, and she goes everywhere with me. Like her, I have this innate sense of curiosity. I really like meeting new people. I love to explore, and right now I'm trying to travel to every national park across the country. Every morning, that same curiosity is what drives me as a journalist.
News 1, I'm Cynthia Constantine.
It really fuels the type of stories that we do. It defines us as Ohioans, and it's why I'm so excited to call this place home.
Coronavirus cases continuing to rise across the world. According to Johns Hopkins University, there are now more than 13 million people worldwide who have been infected with the virus. The university also counted nearly 600,000 deaths around the globe. The United States holds first place for the number of deaths and cases. Brazil comes in second with over 250,000 new infections in the past week. 570,000 people have died from COVID worldwide. The busiest airport in Europe will not reopen all of its terminals until next year. Heathrow Airport, just outside of London, says it will not fully reopen until at least 2021. The airport CEO states that while some terminals have a chance to reopen later this year, summer travel will be the largest determining factor in how the travel hub proceeds. The collapse in revenue from closing terminals and a slow return of passengers may also pave the way to job cuts for the UK's largest airport, according to management. Coca-Cola is working to make its Freestyle drink machines accessible without customers worrying about coronavirus. The company is releasing new technology to make pouring drinks contactless. You just need to scan the QR code on your smartphone to choose a drink on the vending machine. The touch-free technology will work on some 10,000 Coca-Cola Freestyle dispensers by this summer. The company says all Freestyle dispensers will be contactless by the end of the year. Putting a smile on your face during the pandemic. The business going above and beyond to make the most out of these challenging times.